Okay. Welcome to another episode of Polygraph, where we'll be discussing the Tamil Nadu elections with our political editor, Mr. D.K. Singh. We're going to be discussing the swing factors in Tamil Nadu and how they're going to play out. So let's just start with the first question, sir. I mean, before the questions come in, sir, how do you view these elections and?
Revathi, just to tell our viewers first, Revathi has traveling across Tamil Nadu for the last 3-4 weeks. So you have questions from the ground, she's there to answer. So I just bounce it off to her if you just throw something at me. They want to grab it. So I'll actually overview first. Last week, as I did last week with my colleague in Guwahati, Karishma Hastat. Let me indulge myself a bit into with these number games. So as you see, as you look at the numbers today, and especially for viewers who are from outside Tamil Nadu, I mean, those who are from Tamil Nadu, they already know these numbers and how different coalitions or different alliances are stacked up. But for others, let me go over it all over again. So as it is, you have many alliances, at least 3-4 alliances, which are large alliances which are in state. So we have one alliance by the AIADMK, which this alliance comprises. Then you have the opposition, the DMK, which has 13 parties. Then you have, of course, another alliance led by Dinakaran of 8 parties. Then you have Kamala. He is leading another set of 5 parties, and then you have 3 other parties. So it's a very complex situation. And in Tamil Nadu, these alliances are very important because all these parties have moved over small communities here and there. Of course, we're talking about the smaller parties, not the larger one. So let me first give you an overview of who stands where and how things have changed from 2016 to 2019 and from 2019 onwards. And how this shift from 2016 to 2019 don't really say, won't really make the ruling alliance very happy. So if you look at these parties, I'm talking about the AIADMK alliance. In 2016, if you were to put their votes together, and I'm talking about just 3 main parties in this alliance, that is AIADMK, BJP, and PMC. You put their votes together, and they have got about 59% votes in 2016. I'm not even counting the other 7 parties in the alliance today. And when you look at the opposition alliance then in 2016, I'm just counting a few of them: PNK, Congress, VCK, left parties. So the opposition alliance have then got only 43% votes or near about. So obviously you have a major shift from 2016 to 2019, because in 2016 you see this gap of at least 6 to 7 percentage points. What happened from 2016 to 2019? In 2019, you suddenly see the fortune change. It's not just about the number of seats. We saw how the AIADMK alliance could win just 1 of the 39 Lok seats in 2019. But look at the vote shares in 2019. The 3 parties I counted in 2016, that is AIADMK, BJP, and PMK, their vote share came down from 49% in 2016 to 28% in 2019, the Lok Sabha election. Massive drop. And in fact, if you look at the large player, the largest player, the AIADMK have got over 40% vote, almost 41% vote share in 2016, which came down to barely less than 19% in 2019, a massive drop. On the other hand, when you look at DMK, the DMK's vote share in 2016 was about 31%, which actually went up by about 2 percentage points more in 2019. Although the seats don't reflect that marginal increase, because you have the Congress also. Congress got about 13% votes in 2019. So if you look at the opposition alliance performance in 2019, today, if you just put these parties together, I'm talking about DMK, Congress, VCK, and PMF parties, they are around 50%. In fact, you add these, just DMK 33%, Congress 13%, CPM, CPM. These 3 parties take the 1%, for the opposition alliance in 2019. Of course, elections are different. We are only comparing apples to oranges. But I'm trying to show how the fortunes of the two alliances swung. 2016, AIDMK led right on top. 2019, DMK-led alliance came right on top. So what we are looking at today is, if you, in terms of the vote share, now you have suddenly I'm talking about the AIDMK, such vote share has come down to 28%, and the opposition is much, much higher. And don't forget, the BJP was a partner of the AIDMK in 2019 also. What we have seen in Tamil Nadu election, I'm talking about, let's go back 30, 40 decades back. See, you have this alternative sharing of power every 5 years. At least after, I would say after 89. So from 77 to 87, you have this total supremacy of NGR. You have this election in 1989, when Karnataka comes to power. After that, every 5 years, we saw this change of fortune for both parties. Every alternate election, they'll come to power. Until in 2016, Jayalalitha bucked the trend and retained power. For the AIATM alliance this time, very uphill task. Winning for the second or third time, given the trend we are talking about the last 40 years, from 89 onwards. What we are saying is, except in 2016, these parties have been coming to power alternately.
So we actually have one question taken from this, because you're talking about how it's an alternative power sharing thing, but that was changed in 2016. What's new also about this election is that your star power, whether it's Jayalalitha or Karunanidhi, is not there this time. So Ramesh is asking, what can we expect from the first election without Karunanidhi and Jayalalitha? Like, what are the first?
Revathi, ideally, you should be answering that, but I'll say a few words about this first. You know what has happened, how the CM has managed to make a difference, and Revathi will talk about it in a more detailed way. You have first time you have a non-star CM at a long time who has been reaching out to people. So we have heard the stories about how he traveling by car, he would stop by on the way, meet the farmers in the fields. People in Tamil Nadu were not used to this type of a common person as a chief minister. So that's a change this time. On the other hand, you also do not have Karunanidhi, but talent is there. For the AIDMK, it's a big step. Revathi, you tell us how people are looking at this election without this stuff.
So it's quite interesting because I traveled through Western Tamil Nadu, which is the AIDMK's stronghold. And Edapadi is a constituency which the current CM has been holding since 1989. So they're actually capitalizing on the fact that he isn't a star CM. They're calling him one among the farmers, the person who walks the land. And he's also, when he's been targeted about something about slippers, like Mr. E. Raja said, he says, oh, I'm from the soil. So that's how they're trying to, let's say, use the fact that, he's not a star CM, as you mentioned. But what is interesting is Tamil Nadu is known for its welfare politics across, the years and since MGR. But whenever if you speak to people of the facilities they avail, they only remember two people per se, and that's Amma, who's Jayalalitha, and Kalainar, who is Karunanidhi. So in that way, it'd be interesting to see if the AIDMK, how many votes they do get, and if their vote share increases or decreases, to see whether this strategy of really trying to use someone who's from the soil, like a son of a farmer, and they really push this across throughout in their campaign, whether this works, or if ultimately, because it's also interesting. So they're doing this, but they have to rely on Jayalalitha to get the votes. So in his own AIDMK bastion, which is Edapadi, there was this poster which read that with the blessings of Puruchi Talaivi, Amma, which is Jayalalitha, as she's referred to, the CM will emerge victorious again. So it's quite interesting because you're doing this double thing. It's almost contradictory, where you're using his... you're trying to capitalize on his image of being a non-star CM, but you're using the appeal of Amma to get the votes. Similarly, with Karunanidhi, the amount of welfare measures which have reached people throughout these two CMs' times. Now, not to say it hasn't reached through Mr. Palanisamy, but because of their appeal among the people, whenever you go, you ask them, it's either their allegiance, their party allegiance is based on what welfare schemes they received more, either under Kalainar, which is Karunanidhi, or Amma. So it'd be interesting. This is what I've seen till now.
So let me ask you a question, Revathi, before we take up the question for viewers. You have a new CM. Again, many welfare programs have come up during his tenure. Then he has also been praised for an efficient COVID management. Do you get that sense on the ground that his COVID management has actually won him some people and some supporters?
So I don't know if I can answer this definitively, because he has. I mean, people have received he has managed the COVID situation has been managed very efficiently. However, a lot of it is also being credited to the officials who have been at the forefront. So he's been credited for letting the officials do their job in that manner. Where, let's say, among the people where he is being given credit is that they received 1,000 rupees during the lockdown, and they received free rations during Pongal, which is a popular Tamil Nadu festival. They all received 2,000 rupees. So that way, I mean, they've got them. I mean, let's say they've got some assistance from the government. In terms of COVID, like I said, it's a mix of both. Many people do see that. Let's say people see it as he did manage the COVID situation very smoothly. But many people also crediting the officials for being at the forefront, but also, giving him the credit that he at least gave them a free hand, free fall to do whatever he wanted, and he didn't interfere. So that's what I'm seeing now.
We've seen how the health minister was getting a lot of credit and praise, and how he was sidelined later. Anyway, that aside.
So we have another question, which is quite interesting. And I think since you also wrote one article on the RSS in Assam, there's one which says, has RSS any impact on Tamil Nadu's political condition? And this is like an important question, with the BJP really trying to make inroads here.
Revathi, again, you will have to fill that question, because you have been to Coimbatore, and Coimbatore figures very prominently in the RSS scheme of things. So we have seen the RSS apex decision-making body, that is Akhil Bharatiya Patriya Sabha, holding its meeting in Coimbatore 3.5 years back. That was the first time that has happened.
Sure.
And we have seen Mohan Bhagwat visiting Coimbatore. So RSS has been pretty active there. What have you seen on the ground?
So because you spoke about Coimbatore, and because it's also, I mean, not many people know, but like it opened its first Shakha, Coimbatore, in all the way back in 1949. So while BJP may be relatively newer in this state, the RSS, at least in Coimbatore, has a very strong, a fairly pretty strong hold there. And this is also credited. So, and actually the RSS head of Coimbatore said that anyone who shows proficiency in the RSS, we send them to the BJP. The person who's actually standing from Coimbatore South against Kamal Hassan is Revathi Krishnan, who is a former ABVP member, which is the student wing of the RSS. So at least in Coimbatore, in certain pockets, there's a very strong presence. In fact, when I was there for these 4 or 5 days, there were far more rallies by the AIDMK BJP alliance compared to, let's say, the DMK Congress. Though there are many people trying to strengthen their forces and compete against Revathi Krishnan. However, we also have to remember that the AIDMK received a large vote share in the 2016 elections, as did Revathi. So that coupled together is something which really makes her seem as a front runner in Coimbatore. And I mean, just something else which the RSS head also explained when we went there was there are 3 reasons why the RSS is particularly strong in Coimbatore. The first is that it has a substantial majority of the Hindu population. Second is that 50% of the population are non-Tamil speaking people. So these are either Malayalam speaking, Telugu, and even Hindi speaking people. A large part of the labor force are either Marwaris. In fact, I interview people from Rajasthan, Jharkhand, Bihar. And the third is that because it's an MSME hub, they prefer national parties.
Yeah,
So
but the
at
fact
least
is the RSS has a very limited area of influence in Tamil Nadu.
definitely,
And
definitely.
Hindutva is still not the flavor of Tamil politics yet.
Yeah. But do you think, I have a question to ask you. Do you think, let's say, it's only going to strengthen, or do you think it will, that the politics in this state is very different compared to what the RSS,
Well,
compared to
I'll be
RSS?
looking at the results first. I mean, how people respond to it. The BJP has moved in a big way in Tamil Nadu. And RSS, let's see how the people respond, and then really we can take a stock of how it
Sure.
may expand further.
We have another question, which is again equally big, is about Sasikala. It's about her political future. And do you think that, she's going to be admitted back into the AIDMK? I've seen whatever on the ground, but what would you think? Because you've seen her.
Well, if the AIDMK-led alliance wins again, I don't think Sasikala is coming back. But if the AIDMK loses, you will see a lot of defections from this camp, and you will see a lot of AIDMK leaders actually going to Sasikala and actually inviting her back into the party. So when Sasikala decided not to take part in politics and not to take part in this election,
Sure.
we have discussed about it earlier. It was a very calculated move. Because first, if the AIDMK wins, she may still take credit that, I did not really, I helped the party by staying away and committed voter. But
Sure.
if the AIDMK loses, he has all the reasons to attack the current AIDMK leadership.
I have one question: that do you think that people will defect to Sasikala in terms of, will she take over the AIDMK, or will they defect to
There are all
Dinakaran in
kinds of
terms?
possibilities we don't know. But if the AIDMK receives a drubbing in this election, you'll see a lot of churning happening in the AIDMK.
Okay, and a possibility then for Sasikala to then make a re-entry.
Yes.
Sure.
Because what is happening there? You have seen OPS, the deputy chairman, he was willing to take her back because he's also a favor. And Sasikala had actually patronized him at one point of time. Although later on he rebelled against her. But he's already soft. And he's not going to gain anything in the party anymore. Because even if he wins, he will remain a deputy CM. So for him, the buck stops here. So if the AIDMK loses, you will see a lot of people, including probably OPS and many other AIDMK leaders, trying to switch sides and actually invite her back into the party and ask her to take over the reins. There's going to be a lot of infighting in the AIDMK if the party is.
Okay. Because we're also talking about this being the first election besides without Jayalalitha, assembly election without Jayalalitha and Karunanidhi, and the emergence of smaller parties. Someone, Vipin has asked, will Kamal's party, Kamal Hassan's party, which is the Makka Needi Mayam, make an impact due to his ideology being different from other parties, or what do you think in that way?
No, I don't think. I don't see Kamal Hassan impact in this.
Okay. And the main reason for that is because it's too, new, or?
Well, wise, you have to work on the ground. You have to have some programmatic action for a long time. You have to expand your base. It's not that you jump into the fray and just because you're a star, people will start voting for you.
Sure. But and this goes against the politics of Tamil Nadu star politicians. Would you say?
Yeah, the point is he has not worked on the ground for that long. Maybe people know him as a star, but in terms of they connect with him as to what he can do for them, that people may not be much aware of what his potential as an administrator.
Sure. So there's another.
You tell me, you have met Kamal Hassan. You have interviewed her. What's your impression?
So my, from whatever I saw, the Makka Needi Mayam, is a bit popular among the youth, but that is only in and around Chennai, and then let's say Coimbatore South, because that's his constituency. If you go into Western Tamil Nadu, let's say Erode, Salem, Namakkal, or even Southern, like where I am right now, as you pass through Virudhunagar, Dindigul, there is very little presence of Kamal Hassan here. So I wouldn't know I wouldn't know how popular the party is, and I only know of their popularity if there is any in the urban pockets. And this was actually highlighted in the 2019 elections as well, that they did better in Chennai in the urban areas, but in the rural areas, the party themselves admits that they didn't have that appeal. And I think there's something similar playing out again this election.
So it will depend on after this election how sustained effort makes. I mean, is it going to be there for a long time? Then probably yes.
Sure. I mean, just for my own understanding, 2019, like the party only formed in 2018. 2019, they contested. So they still have that thing of not being strong among the rural areas. In your experience, do you think 2 years is enough to make inroads?
Not really, no.
No. Okay. So we have another interesting question from Vignesh Kunar, which is saying, do you think EPS can win the same way like Nitish won the election on the basis of women voters?
I'm not really sure. I mean, you are on the ground, you tell us. Is he getting the traction among women voters?
So actually, it's quite interesting because any flack or quite a bit of flack which the DMK receives is for rowdyism, and in fact, the IT wings, the AIDMK is largely concentrated on women feeling unsafe during the DMK's rule because of, let's say, the ruffian politics. So, and maybe because of due to Jayalalitha, then there's it's known to be a party which usually attracts female voters. However, this is, I mean, I'm seeing it, I wouldn't say this time that AIDMK is the party for, where it will grab all the female votes, among women voters, because of, again, how you don't have that person leading it per se right now. And the DMK is really, through their IT wing, really trying to, revamp its image from this rowdyism to, welfare for all across communities. And they're also bringing up, actually quite interestingly, the history of the self-respect and Dravidian movement, which is the first to focus on property rights for women, for self-respect marriages. So they're trying to use their legacy in that way. I don't know if they'll be successful, but historically, at least from what I have seen, the women voters have been known to be a strong point of the IDMK. So if EPS can,
But let's see. We saw how the DMK tried to actually move women voters by bringing them down. They're talking about 1,000 rupees a month for the housewives.
Yeah, the DMK.
DMK, then other parties have also jumped in there.
Then the AIDMK said 1,500.
Yeah, but I don't know how much impact this Raja controversy will have on the potential women voters who might be looking at the DMK as an option
Sure. So actually, there's a thing about, since we're talking about opinion polls and all of that, they're saying, do you see a possibility of a close contest between the DMK and the AIDMK rather than a huge majority, which most of the opinion polls are showing up? Do you think this is a possibility?
Well, if you look at the history of elections in Tamil Nadu, at least in the past 25 years that I recall from 1996 election onwards, you have huge swings. Suddenly, some party which is getting 30, say in 1996, does 40. From there, say you go 150, from there come down to 40. So we saw in 2011, AIDMK got 195 seats. Although in 2016 it managed, but it came down to 136.
Sure.
But otherwise, you have huge swings. The party is win by huge margins.
Sure. We have another question, which actually is quite, I don't know if this, you actually already mentioned is A. Raja derogatory comment on Palaniswamy, the turning point. So do you think you've already answered that, or is there something else?
If you can tell us from the ground, are people really that upset about it, or is it becoming just a political rhetoric and without much resonance?
I might go with the latter of it becoming more of a political rhetoric, but the fact that he did even apologize and it's, it was made public. I don't know if this is, how much is resonating on the ground among the voters, let's see, even the rural areas.
But surely put up quite a few women there.
Definitely. In fact, someone actually, was commented saying that it's this arrogance. They use that word. These aren't my words, but someone said that it's this arrogance of the DMK which will bring them down. because they're showing like large, considerable, a comfortable margin. But maybe this could then bring them down if you're making statements like these.
Yeah, and that's how only yesterday we saw how Stalin's son stoked this entire controversy about the Prime Minister not treating Sushma Swaraj well, Arun Jaitley well, and their daughters have come out to defend the party.
Yeah, yes. In fact, I saw the BJP, the AIDM, the BJP IT wing has really capitalized on that. They've said, don't use my father's legacy in that way. So,
Revathi, nobody has asked you this question. Let me ask you this. There's a lot of interest outside Tamil Nadu about how the BJP is going to fare there. The BJP has got 20 seats in its quota.
Yeah.
And now, most of the seats where AIDMK had come second, or actually had won the AIDMK has sacrificed of many seats for the BJP.
Sure.
But on the ground, we see a lot of resistance, and I'm given to understand that the BJP and AIDMK cadres are not really gelling well.
Sure.
What have you seen there? What's happening?
So it's quite funny that you say that. I actually met a few AIDMK leaders today, or spoke to them, and I'm in Kanyakumari right now. So here there's a MP, there's a seat for the between Revathi Krishnan and the Congress candidate Vasant Kumar, and as well as an MLA. The fight for the assembly elections. So in fact, somebody said, at least in Kanyakumari per se, from what I have gathered, the information is that the coordination is not good at all, and because Kanyakumari has such a diverse, electorate, a large number of votes are Christian voters who are the deciding factor. Sorry, as well as Muslim voters. Someone said that we would be losing a considerable vote share, who will let's say move away from the AIDMK because of this alliance. Not everywhere are they joining hands, and it's not as smooth per se. I know in Kanyakumari it's completely separate. They're not really helping each other. However, Nagarkoil, which is literally 40 minutes, I've been told that it's a lot more it's a lot more well oiled. But I wouldn't know. In that way, I think there is a lot of tension, at least on the ground, between the workers. But these are also in certain parts. Like I know that, for example, in Salem I went, they were absolutely fine. There were BJP workers there, and there were AIDMK workers there. However, I think in the larger BJP strongholds is where there's a lot more friction and tension in that manner.
Let me point out the irony here. The way the opposition alliance has been going after the BJP there. We saw this campaign, you wrote about it today, how the DMK candidates are saying that, they're inviting Prime Minister Narendra Modi to come and campaign for their opponents. That, you campaign for the AIDMK candidate in my conference so that I could win. This is what the DMK candidates are doing. And this entire hullabaloo about, the BJP entering Tamil politics, that's a bit of an irony, because you go back, say, 20 years, in 2001 assembly election. Even then, the DMK had allied with the BJP. And
exactly.
Right, the BJP had won four seats, actually.
Yes, 4 seats.
Although in 2004 again, it was the AIDMK and the BJP had gone together. Although that alliance was wiped out completely in the Lokasabha election. But it's not that the BJP had entered into an alliance with the Canadian party for the first time.
Sure. And this is actually something which a professor or people here have been explaining, that, so Tamil Nadu is known for its Dravidian ideology and Dravidian politics, and many say this will be there irrespective. But people have also argued that it's waned, because when you get into political, let's say the political sphere, you're obviously more worried about retaining the positions. And someone said we're talking about the AIDMK, but Karunanidhi did ally with the BJP, as you mentioned a lot earlier. It is quite an anomaly in that sense, definitely. Which is also, you spoke about the DMK in terms of, one last question. You spoke about the DMK in terms of how they were doing this campaign where they're asking Modi to campaign for their opponents. And someone's asked, do you think this is a battle of IT cells in Tamil Nadu, this election? Because both, in fact, I've met people in both the IT cells. It's a very strong, effort from their side. So is this synonymous with all elections now, or do you think there's something special about Tamil Nadu?
Yeah, I think 2014 onwards, you have seen all parties actually getting increasingly to this IT business.
Sure.
After what happened in 14, and after that, you see opposition parties also doing the same thing. Say in West Bengal now, IT sector, both the opposition and the ruling party, they're very active. Same
Sure.
thing and everywhere. It's becoming part of the pockets.
Sure. So we've the questions are constantly coming, but I mean,
before I wind up, one question try to understand. We are talking about the BJP probable impact on Tamil Nadu election. Now you have across several regions to understand from the youngsters how they feel about Modi's push, because somehow past elections, Narendra Modi was never a factor in the politics.
Yeah.
This time we see such a serious push by the BJP. The Prime Minister, the Home Minister, JP Nadda, everybody going there campaign.
Aditya Nath, yeah.
Even RSS chief sitting there. They have a lot of hope in this election.
Yeah.
Do you see that kind of push and push for this projection of the BJP being a party of development, which would end all corruption in Tamil Nadu and all the development works? Do you see that get any traction, at least among the youngsters, who a section of whom I'm told are probably looking?
Sure. Yeah.
What has been?
Probably, actually, I would say that so some people are focusing on that. In fact, there was one person who said that Modi has signed so many MOUs and this will help our country develop, etc. But I would also say that in parts the opposite is happening. Because there are a lot, for the first time, usually in these, from my limited experience outside Tamil Nadu, most people are focusing on Modi and his appeal, but it's actually within the youngsters, which I felt most, where, there, in fact, this professor also said, because of the incoming of the BJP in Tamil Nadu, the youngsters are now turning more to Dravidian ideology, which they wouldn't have earlier possibly. They're trying to revisit that and learn more about it. And while development and, someone said he wants to be an entrepreneur who's an MBA student, are very important. Like development is something which is on everyone's mind. Actually, the two things which most youngsters said when I did that story are basically education and employment. But that it's not one or the other. It's not mutually exclusive, and they're actually seeing that. Say if I want that, I want my focus to be education and employment. If someone comes, they still continue to view a large amount of them BJP as an outsider party. The language, the imposition is something which is very pertinent. So let's say NEET and language is very pertinent, but it's quite surprising that Modi, while BJP is seen as an outsider party and they're a bit skeptical of it, a considerable amount of population considered Modi to be a strong leader and a strong PM who, had a good appeal, but they just said BJP doesn't understand Tamil Nadu. So it's this dichotomy there.
Basically, we'll have to see whether this movement for Modi translates into votes for the BJP or not.
Yeah. And that's actually something which the BJP is also riding on along with the AIDMK is also riding on in a strong constituency like Coimbatore South. They are banking on Modi's appeal, at least there. So that could be a factor. Yeah. Sure. So I think the questions are constantly coming, but it's, we will wrap up now. We go to polls. Tamil Nadu goes to polls on 6th of April. And as does Kerala as well, in single phase for 234 constituency seats. So,
I'm sure there are many questions we have not been able to fill today, but please write and we'll respond to you for sure. I and everything will respond.
We'll do our best. Yes. Thank you so much. And stay tuned for next week.